So I'm here with Judy Dalton today. She's paid us a visit down to Fawkner Park Tennis Centre. She's kindly offered to have a chat with me about her career and her participation in the original 9. So Judy has won a career Grand Slam in doubles. She's won 11 Grand Slam titles. She reached the final of Wimbledon in singles in 1968. She was the part of the original 9 standing up for equal rights for women, and she is in the International Tennis Hall of Fame and Australian Tennis Hall of Fame. So Judy, going back to your playing experience, what made you choose tennis as a career?
Oh, well, I started to play when I was 5. My father was a good tennis player. He came from Ireland. He was a really good tennis player and a soccer player or football player, whatever you want. And the people next door had a tennis court where we lived. So he used to take me to have a hit. But in those days, of course, they didn't have small rackets or anything. They had the big wooden rackets. So that was quite difficult. So my ground strokes were not always very good. I could serve and volley, strangely enough, but my ground strokes were never all that wonderful. That I really had to work on.
So what was a highlight of your tennis career?
I suppose you have to say that it was getting to the final of Wimbledon, because I'm not sure, I think it still applies, but for everybody here, Wimbledon is the pinnacle of everything.
So what challenges did you have to overcome in your playing career, and how did you do that?
Well, it was difficult because up until that time there was no prize money in any of the tournaments. They had appearance money, but it was quite small, but certainly very small by comparison to now.
So what did you do to earn your money?
Oh, well, I did accountancy, so I worked for 6 months, and I was lucky. Well, we weren't sure how it would go, but we didn't have any idea that we would have the difficulty that we did. But because we wanted to change things, we were all prepared to take the chance. And Billie couldn't have done it without us, but we couldn't have done it without her. And we couldn't have done it without Gladys Heldman either, who owned World Tennis, and she had all the contacts because we believed in what we wanted to do. I mean, we wanted, the principal one wasn't equal prize money, it was equality, that we would be, it was more recognition that we would be recognised, and that we'd be able to run women's tennis, and that people would come and watch us, and we could be totally independent. But that we would always come together on the Grand Slams and the bigger tournaments. But we wanted to be able to know that we could run and be, stand on our own 2 feet. Give scholarships to, say, people from other countries who were really good. And so therefore they would stay in the top grades. And the women got hardly anything. They got like maybe even a tenth of what the men got. But when we did all that, and when we became successful, Title IX changed, and now it's equality, so they both have to spend the same amount. But the challenges were great, because the Australian Association suspended Kerry and I, and we came back and we couldn't play any tournaments in Australia. We couldn't use any equipment, nothing, no shoes, anything. But thankfully, after probably a couple of months of negotiation, the International Federation agreed that we weren't professionals for $1, and that it was all fine and that we could go ahead. I mean, luckily it all worked out well, because who knows where women's tennis would have been if we hadn't done that.
So in the room when you were signing the contract, I'd love to have been a fly on the wall for what were the discussions, or what were you excited, or were you
no, because we decided that that's what we were going to do, and that's what we wanted to do, and we just said, look, we'll take a chance, and that's it.
But how did you go in that environment? So you're collaborating with these women, and you've got to go out on court and play against them.
Look, we had terrific camaraderie, because we all had to help one another. Of course, there was no other way of doing it. We went to Nottingham in England to play a tournament, and there was only Billie Jean and I left, because we got to the final. I got to the final singles, and we played the doubles the day before, and so we said, what are we going to do? We're going to have to practice with one another, because we've got nobody else to practice with. So we went out, put our practice gear on, had a practice and everything, and we were saying to one another, oh yeah, maybe you should try that, or maybe you should try this, you know. Because, as an aside, if anybody had troubles and they weren't playing very well, we all put our brains together and said, well, maybe you should try that, or maybe you should try that, and how about that? And, do you know, because everybody supported.
With the original 9 movement, when did you realise you'd reached success?
We had the 2 years of doing our Virginia Slim circuit.
Yeah.
And because we were successful, we then started having more people who were interested in coming to play in our tournaments. At Wimbledon, they had a room in one of the hotels there, and they got all the players, all the women players to come. So there was something like I think it was about 160 players who signed up that day. And basically that was the beginning of the WTA.
Yeah.
And then it just went from strength to strength after that.
Now, what's one of the most exciting changes you've seen in women's sport?
In women's sport? Well, I think certainly the recognition and also prize money. Tennis is exceptional in that they have equal prize money. But we never dreamed that was going to happen, I can tell you.
Yeah.
But it's amazing.